And here we are. Uh, Welcome to the Celebrity Josh podcast, or whatever I eventually decide to call it. I don't really like the name. I'm your host, Josh Rackless, and I don't like my own name either, but we're going with what we've got. But today's guest is a guy with a cool name. I'm going to say Robert Riopel. How's that?
Oh,
no. Wait. No. Start again. Robert Riopel. No, wait. Robert. Maybe it's the Robert I'm getting wrong. Robert Riopel. No.
See, you nailed it. You nailed it. As soon as you went French, you nailed it.
Oh, man. What are you doing as a French guy in Alberta?
Well, the family came out west. My grandparents came out west and settled in and around Edmonton. So there's even a Riopel school.
Oh, wow. So you're like a legend over there.
Well, maybe in my own mind, but that's about it.
Yeah. So you gotta stay where you're a legend. If you came here, people would be like, "Who's this Riopel guy?"
Well, but see, I go to Montreal and there's the famous artist Riopel, but they're spelled Riopelle, which I recently found out a couple of years ago. If you're born into the right family, you have the ELLE. If you're born into the poor Riopels, you're just Riopel. So that's why my ancestors moved west, was because they were born into the wrong Riopels.
Yeah. But out west, nobody knew the difference.
Exactly, right?
Oh, you're the famous art gallery Riopel. Yeah, yes, that is us. Why did you leave Montreal, where you were rich and famous? Oh, we just like wheat. I don't know.
Yes.
we hate mountains. We want to be where it is flat. Okay. Well, cool. I don't even know. Maybe there are mountains in Alberta. I have no idea. Actually, there are mountains. I've been to Alberta. There's mountains there.
The beginning of the Rockies starts just outside of Calgary. Yep.
I went to what was I doing there? I went to MC a friend's wedding, and then my friend was living in Calgary, and he took me to Banff.
Yep.
I thought that was a very cute town. I just imagine being young and being like a waiter in one of these bars and just hanging out in the wilderness and with all the artists and stuff. That'd be cool. But I haven't done anything like that. So, I guess, I do this like, I heard recently that Larry King interviewed people without knowing anything about them. He would just learn about them during the show, and that was very real as he learned about them as he was talking to them. So that's my method. So
cool.
What would be your little intro to like who you are?
Well, international best-selling author, app designer, serial entrepreneur, and for the last 18 and a half years, I've been blessed to travel around the world, impacting lives, and personally trained over 500,000 people in 3 to 5 day seminars where I'm on stage up to 12 hours a day.
Wow. All right. Well, that's better than my bio. Guy sitting in basement on Skype. And I don't have, for those of you, so I'm going to put the audio on the podcast and I'm going to put the video on YouTube. So for those of you who can't see this, you've got a couple of books with your own face on them in the background on the shelf, just casually happen to be there. And
how did that happen?
Oh, no. And then meiji. What is meiji? I feel like I've seen that word before, but is that a software program or something?
Oh, you're looking at. Oh no. That's actually a prop I use in my training. First time I ever went to Japan, I was getting ready for a training, and to blow off some steam, I was in an arcade, and they had this one where that's a big chocolate bar, and I'm like, I gotta win that chocolate bar. And after about $75 of trying to win this big chocolate bar, all of a sudden I finally got it. And the box lands in, I take it out, and me and my assistant trainer were excited. We're like, we're gonna have some chocolate tonight. We open up, and there's only 4 little chocolate bars inside this big box. And it was, what a great analogy of packaging is everything. So I use it as a prop because, it looks like it's going to be a big chocolate bar. And I don't speak Japanese and read Japanese, so I didn't know it said 4 little tiny ones in here.
Yeah.
And that's what that is.
Meiji is Japanese for stupid white guy or something.
It could be. Yeah, we'll take your money.
Yeah. Yes. Wow. So, I mean, I guess that is an interesting... Because, I mean, why would it be more impressive if they sort of made like a chocolate bar that was all stuck together to one big chocolate bar? Well, why not just 4 little ones that it's the same amount of chocolate, but they just don't happen to be attached?
But it's not. Oh, no. Each little chocolate bar is only about this big, whereas the box is like this big. So
Oh,
there's
so
lots
it's
of
not even the
packaging
four.
around.
Oh, it's not even the four filled up the big box. They're like, here's a giant
Right.
box with four regular little chocolate bars.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
wow. Well, that's you got well. So what is the lesson you would teach in your coaching?
Well, so I was teaching trainers how to be trainers, like I do experiential. And when we talk about packaging your materials to be able to, for your audience, a lot of people today, they'll go like, hey, I've got all these millions of hours of my amazing information, and you can get it all on this little zip drive. And all of a sudden you devalue by going, hours and hours and hours, but it's on this little zip drive because the mind goes, well, that's small. What's the value? Small value. So
Right.
now you take something like that and you show it, or like a book, and you sit there and you go, like, on page number 180 of this thick book of valuable information. So it's all in how you present what you're looking. And this is one of the reasons I've been able to do over $100 million in sales from the stage over the last 18 and a half years, is because how you present it, how you package it to help people's minds understand the value. That's the big part.
Ah, cool. Because I remember the old Tony Robbins commercials. It used to, or whatever. It used to be like you'd see it at the end. You'd pan to like, and get these 50 DVDs or something, and this,
Yes.
and then this book and these giant things. You're like, wow, I want all that. But now it would be like, well, we can send you an email with all that information, but that's not. I can't hold 50 DVDs in my hand, or the cassette tapes, 10 cassette tapes that you will listen to in your car, or 8 tracks. Well, all right. Well, that's a good lesson. What can I ask quickly, like how you got, the story of your life quickly, if I wanted to follow the same path as Robert Riopel?
Yeah. Well, for me, being in Alberta, I was kind of in the box thinking is how I was raised, especially work hard. Even if you don't like the job you're doing, you do it to support your family. And by the time I was 21, I'm laid off from my third job, and I'm going, that's obviously not working. And out of necessity, because we were in an oil bust at the time in 1989, I started delivering pizzas for Domino's Pizza, start making more money than I made doing my regular job, or a real job, if you'd call it. Then I was able, because of my work ethic, become a manager. My wife became my assistant. Next thing you know, we're working 7 days open to close because we work hard. We end up qualifying to be franchisees. A year and a half later, my franchisee says, well, I'm getting out of Domino's Pizza. I'm selling the stores. And we wanted to buy the store we were in, but we didn't have any money. But because we have passion, we learned and studied and made a lot of mistakes, Josh, like a lot of mistakes on how not to buy a business. But we were actually able to get 100% financing to buy both of his stores, and we became franchisees. And we were franchisees for 9 years. Now, we knew how to run a store, but in the beginning, we didn't know how to run a business. And so for the first 2 years, we struggled through. We started doing pretty well, but then our spending habits, and Josh, you've probably never experienced anybody who's ever done this. We started spending more money than we were earning.
What?
I know, shocking.
Yeah.
No, I know, right? Probably no one's ever done that.
Oh.
By the time we were franchisees 8 years, we were over $150,000 in debt, going down quickly. That's when we were introduced to personal development. A 3-day weekend changed our life, where taking what we learned, we were able to go from being deep in debt to actually retired financially free completely 9 months later at the age of 32. Our minds went, wow, that works. And if this information gave us that result, what would more learning do? And we became avid students, learning from as many people as we could. And that's when I found my passion was to be a trainer, because I felt if I could even help one person do what my wife and I had been able to do, we'd make it all worthwhile. And now for the last 18 and a half plus years, like I said, I've been blessed to travel around the world several times and personally train over 500,000 people.
Wow. See, that's my dream. Like, I've been working in advertising and acting, and I've always felt like, there was something more. And yeah, lately I've been reading so many sort of self-help books or listening to podcasts, and like, that would be cool to be on stage talking to people. That way you can be funny, but still be providing value. Because I was always like, if I do comedy, I'm just making people laugh, or I'm writing commercials and they laugh at it. But like, what am I really providing to the world? I'm not really helping people. It felt like shallow. But lately I've been thinking, well, if you're funny, you can make people laugh doing anything. You could be a psych prof that's making people laugh, like a friend's father
That's
was.
right.
Or you could be a coach.
Yeah.
Imagine if you were providing value and making people laugh, it would be so valuable. Like you're already making them laugh, but now you're giving them value as well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
ah.
And it
So
seems like you and I have the same warped sense of humor. Maybe it goes with our aerodynamicness. You never know.
it lets
And
the it lets the humor out of our scalp. Yeah, it's like rather than block.
right?
Yeah.
And you would have a blast around the world because people go, Robert, you speak all over the world. Do you speak different languages? I'm like, I barely speak English.
Yeah.
And so I can have an event where I have up to 6 translators. Last week, I did a virtual event where we were translating into Greek, German, and Spanish. And one of the things I tell all my translators, I tell them, because I learned quickly, Josh, when I started traveling around the world, my bad jokes don't translate.
No.
And so a friend of mine taught me, he said, Robert, tell your translators that if they don't understand your joke, don't just stop speaking, which some of them do.
Yeah.
Just if you don't understand it, simply translate through the microphone to the headset. Robert just told a joke, laugh please.
Ha!
And so when they do that, I get bigger laughs and I know what just happened. And so that allows me to have a lot of fun because I'm a big believer. Have fun. Way too many serious people on this planet. So when I do my trainings, I'm doing deep change for people, but I'm having fun at the same time so that I can show them that you can actually have a great life and be happy and actually not as stressed. And so, yeah, I think you would do great if you have a sense of humor already. You know, it's just about getting out there and start really impacting lives with a message.
Well, I mean, that's even a good stand-up comedy technique. Like I've done stand-up on and off over my life, but very rarely. And I tried a stand-up comedy contest last summer. I didn't get voted past the first round. So this winter I was like, okay, I need to really focus on this. So I took some classes online on Zoom and a few in-person ones in Ottawa. And then this summer I entered the contest again, and I came in first prize for my night a couple of weeks ago. So I'm excited about that. Woo! I just talked for 7 minutes about getting my vaccine because I figured if I talk about something that happened yesterday, at least they're like, well, it just happened yesterday. You didn't have that much time to write the jokes. But otherwise, they'd be like, you've had 48 years to write this, and that's how funny it is. Like, but that's one of the techniques that, you're supposed to use. Like, you should have a plan. If people don't laugh, then you can, I do something self-deprecating, or you could be, like exactly what you did. You could be like, I just told a joke. Can you laugh now just for the recording? And that's a funny joke. So you've always got a backup like plan in case people don't laugh at what you're saying. So you're already using stand-up techniques for your speeches.
And you're already ahead of the game because when I train, I've been blessed to train thousands of trainers around the world. And one of the things I have them do to become a greater trainer is study stand-up comedy, because that's where they learn how to, deliver the punch, put a pause in, how to take the audience on that roller coaster. And so being a stand-up comedian is a great asset to being a life-transforming trainer because it is the same technique. And stand-up comedians, people don't appreciate the work that they put in behind the scenes. They do. They think, you're not. Well, there's a lot to really be able to deliver. So you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts with James Altucher lately. And he started studying stand-up comedy about 6 years ago, and then he bought his own club. He's been touring the world doing it. And he talks about how it's such a useful skill for anybody to learn for anything. Because like if you're in the boardroom and you can make people laugh, like, oh my God, or if you're public speaking, none of the other speakers are going to make people laugh. So if people laugh at all, never mind every 10 seconds, they're going to be, oh my God, this guy was hilarious. So you're already ahead of the game and you can make anything interesting. And that's what I always thought. I'm like, because I took Al Gore's climate reality training a few years ago in Chicago to teach people about global warming, and I never wound up doing a presentation, but I always thought, well, imagine if I did that and I was funny with it. It's like, so they're still getting the information they want, but you're making that funny. Because I always thought that would be more useful than just me coming up and be like, yeah, I'm going to tell you some jokes about airline food. Like, okay, they laugh, but really, how have I changed anyone's life? And I look back now, when I was in university, my friend Ben, his dad was a psych prof at Oxford, I think, and he came and gave a speech at our school for free because I was there, and he wanted to do a favor for me, and he was so funny. But it didn't occur to me. It was 30 years ago. It didn't occur to me, hey, I could pursue psychology and use my comedy desires to be the funniest professor ever. And that's what he's been doing for years. He was voted favorite professor at Oxford for 3 years. He travels around the world as a corporate psychologist. And so I emailed him recently. I'm like, can I talk to you about, is it too late at 48 to become a PhD? I haven't heard back. Well, I did hear back, but I haven't booked a thing yet, a talk with him. But yeah, so then I started thinking, God, I look at what people like you do. I'm like, can you imagine? Because I I sold my condo 2 years ago, in Toronto, so I could be free to be a digital nomad and go anywhere. I didn't go anywhere, and now there's a pandemic, so I'm in my parents' basement in Ottawa.
See, and that's it. And people, I love the saying, people aren't going to remember what you say. They're going to remember how you make them feel. And that's why comedy comes in, right?
Well,
And that is the key.
Well, exactly that. And that's what Ben's father said, that people would like book him for a corporate gig. He'd give a speech, and then they'd be like, "Can you come back next year?" And he'd be like, "Yes, I've got 10 more speeches." And like, "No, just do the same one." It's like, "But you already heard it." They don't care, because they made them laugh or whatever, right? You could just come and say the same thing again, even. All right. Well, I heard a story on, I think it was Kathy Eller's podcast or something. She was interviewing somebody who was, maybe she was doing stuff for Dave Ramsey, like one of these financial gurus. And somebody, he couldn't do a speech once, and she was like, "I'll fill in," and she didn't know how, but then she just did it, and now she's like a big speaker. So I feel like that's going to be my sideways in. I'm going to be Robert Riopel's like assistant guy, and then one day you're gonna, I don't know, you're gonna have a cold or something, and I can't do it. I'll be like, "It's okay, Robert. I've heard your speech a couple times. I'll go up and do it, and maybe I'll just tell them I'm you. I'll just grow the goatee, and they won't know that.
Right,
I could be your stunt guy. You could double your performances now, and nobody will know what the difference." How was Robert spending in France and Italy at the same time? What's that?
Yeah, and we're close in age as well, so it could work.
Oh my gosh, he's amazing. He's doing speeches 2 places at once. Yes.
And well, I am Gemini, so I do have the 2 personalities. So we could even. All right.
That's it. This could be your thing. What are those jade panda bears or something in your background on their shelf?
Oh, well, that's they're little piglets, and it says, "Hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil." And I have lots of pig things around the house, because I actually happen to have a 265-pound pet pig. Now, she doesn't know she's a pig. She thinks she's a dog, and she's a princess. And because it's not noon yet, we don't even wake her up until at least noon, or else she's a grumpy girl. And then she'll go outside. So yeah, ever since we've had her the last 10 years, from 2 days old, she is a personality, and so our house tends to be filled with objects that look like pigs.
That's the thing. You find that one thing, and I'll bet if anybody ever buys you a present, it's always like, "Oh, look, I found you this pig coffee mug or this pig calendar or something." I had a girl I had a girlfriend in university who liked Dalmatians, and so everybody gave her Dalmatians, and then my mom decided she liked cows, so now everybody gives her cow stuff. Like, I don't have. Actually, my thing was Spiderman, and so people were giving me Spiderman stuff. And in university, they gave me some like Spiderman posters. And eventually, like 10 years ago, I decided I'm grown up now. James Bond wouldn't have Spider-Man posters on his wall. I want to look cool, so I threw them all out. I left them in a Goodwill parking lot. And then lately, I've been feeling nostalgic, and I'm like, I'm gonna go on eBay and see if I could buy those. But they're all like for sale for like $700 each or something. I threw away tens of thousands of dollars of posters from the 80s. But then I keep trying to think, what would a life coach say? Just don't think about it. Just look forward to the future or something.
That's about it. Because it's so easy to get frustrated over stuff like that. Look at the people that follow Bitcoin daily, hourly, minute, because also it's up, it's down. And it's like that Katy Perry song. You're up and you're down, you're in and you're out, you're hot and you're cold. However that goes.
Yeah. I bought my first Bitcoin 2 days ago. And there's this free app that you can download. And if people download it through your referral link, they get $10 in free Bitcoin, and you get $40. And I'm like, all right. So I've been trying to get all my friends and followers sign up. If I could get my 10,000 Facebook followers to sign up, I'll get like a lot of money. But nobody will sign up for this stupid. It's a free app. So I need to learn some coaching. But anyway, I went. They gave you a $5 bonus if you transferred $100 in to buy Bitcoin. So I was like, I'm gonna finally do it. And I did it 2 days ago, and it already says it's up 10%. I'm like, oh, I should have put in millions.
Yeah. $1 million.
Yes, exactly. I got to go as Dr. Evil for Halloween or something as well. Actually, for Purim this year, I'm Jewish. They did a virtual thing. They said, send in a picture of a costume. So I sent in a picture of me as Dr. Evil. Like I made a little background with my green screen. And then I sent in one as me as Jeff Bezos as well. Like, here's my Amazon store kind of thing. So sometimes I wonder what it's like not sometimes, always I wonder what it's like to be that rich, like if they're really having a lot more fun, or if they're just like, we just have to eat in fancy restaurants now or something. So,
I've been blessed to share the stage with a few multi-billionaires. And one gentleman, I was doing an event in Singapore and Malaysia, and we were having a conversation through translation because he's Chinese and I don't speak Chinese and he doesn't speak English. And all of a sudden, out of the blue, he's like, would you like to join us for dinner? And once I picked myself up off the floor, I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he had an entourage of like 15, 20 people, and he's in sweats, I'm in jeans, and we're in a little noodle house. And nothing fancy, and just having a conversation because he's an everyday person, just like I am, just like you are. And that's one of the things I've learned is, it's us who puts people up on pedestals. But when you really, most people who are successful, it's like if you treat them as a human, not like, oh my God, look at who you are, you're a celebrity. That's when you can really get to know the people, because they're just, I'll give you an example. When I'm traveling around the world and I'm in front of thousands of people, the students sometimes go, oh, can I approach them? Can I not? And I'm like, I'm just a person. And so a student came up to me one time and said, you said that you love golfing, and I know you said you're not good at it, but you don't fly to Vietnam until next week. Me and my friends were going golfing on Thursday. Would you like to join us? And I looked at him and I said, yeah. And all of a sudden he's like, what? I said, yes, Y-E-S. How does that translate into Thai? Sawadee clap, yes. Yeah. And he goes, I didn't expect you to say yes. I said, well, I'd be sitting in my hotel room doing nothing but work. So to have an opportunity to go golfing, I said, I'm in. And when we went golfing that day, they're just blown away that here I am, just an everyday person. And that's what I think people have to understand. It doesn't matter your wealth, your celebrity status, or anything. Everybody's human. We're all the same. And if you can cut through the perceptions of each other and just say, hey, this is who I am, I'd like to get to know who you are, that's when amazing connections can really happen.
Yeah, and that's what I was, for a couple of years, I had a media pass at TIFF, the Toronto Film Festival, and I was interviewing celebrities on red carpets. I would just run up to them, but I'd always draw a cartoon of them ahead of time and be like, here, I drew you. And I had some really nice conversations with people, like this guy, Gary Goetzman, who's Tom Hanks' business partner, and he was producing a Justin Timberlake movie. And I've got this interview of him going, you're really interesting. I think we should hang out and stuff. So years later, I managed to find his email address. He hasn't replied to me. So he might have been not really wanting to hang out with me. But I feel that's kind of something even with children, like I like to talk to children or even pets as people, like just like, hey, I'm not going to treat, hi little 5-year-old. I'm like, hey, how's it going? And they kind of respond to that. They're like, hey, you're just talking to me like a normal person. So yeah, but at the same time, I want to be somebody like you who people are like, oh my God, Josh is going to come golfing with us. I'd always dreamed. My dream was like to be so famous that even if I go to this little village in France or something where there's hardly any people, they'll be like, oh my God, Josh Rackless just walked into our patisserie or something. So it's always been my dream. I better get on that, because a friend of mine in university said, Josh, you're really interesting, but I think you're destined for posthumous fame. People won't get you until after you're dead. And then they'll be like, oh, wow. And I'm like, no. But the older I get, the more I'm like, was he right? Like, okay, what am I going to call his bluff there?
Well, then here, right from my book, one step in the right direction is worth 1,000 years of thinking about it. One of my favorite quotes I love from one of my mentors. And so just start. That's how it happened for me. Remember, I said I wanted to help one person. If I could even help one person. And from there, I've now, helped hundreds of thousands and then impacted even more. And part of it too is how do you stay humble in that? I talk about 4 currencies of life, and one of the currencies is fame. And because celebrities, you've done red carpets. There's the celebrities that can handle it and they do well and they're long term, but then there's the ones that end up with drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and they burn out and unfortunate suicide and stuff like that. It's like, what's the difference? And it's being you within your role. So like when I'm on stage, as an example, I'm Robert Raymond Riopel. That's my brand. That's who I am. But I'm me within that brand. But when I'm home, I'm just Robert. I'm just me. And I have assistants take care of everything when I'm traveling. So when I come home, a running joke with my wife is, she goes, honey, you're home again. There's no more assistants. Go take out the garbage. And I love it because it keeps me grounded. Because the moment I get into my ego and think I'm all that, that's when the addictions come in and everything like that you see with celebrities, is because they think that they have to be a certain way to be that celebrity. But if they just remain themselves with everything they do, and it came, it really started from advice a mentor of mine gave me. He said, Robert, you don't want to ever be afraid to meet a student somewhere around the world and have to figure out who to be in their presence. Be you on the stage the same way you're off the stage. And in that way, and I've met students all over the world in the wildest places. And they're like, wow, you are just the same as you. You got bad jokes, you're energetic, and you're quirky, just like you are on stage. And I'm like, yeah, that's all I know how to be. And so that's advice I would give people that want that 15 minutes of fame, or they want to do more and impact lives. Then be you within that energy and watch the difference it'll make on your health, on your mindset, not being overwhelmed.
Okay. Yeah, it'd be like in the Avengers when they go to Hawkeye's house, they're like, oh, you've got a little house with your wife and your kids and whatever, and it's just a normal little place, and that's where he is when he's not a superhero. Kind of, it's grounded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so all right, well, can you sum up in like 60 seconds how you went from like, oh, I think I should help people, and then 18 years later traveling around the world and all
that? Yeah, I kept being of service. And I love to tell people it's amazing how 5 minutes can change your life. Because when my wife and I retired at 32, we spent the next 2.5 years not only learning from everybody we could, but volunteering at every event of my mentors we could. And one day he went, Robert, I need you to help me on stage for 5 minutes because I'm writing a new program. And years later, we're now friends, and then we're talking, and I've trained thousands of trainers. And he said, do you know why I put you on that stage the first time? And I said, no, why? He said, because I could not ignore you anymore. You were always showing up and being of service. He said, and that day I talked to you, I'm trying to talk to a student at a break, and you're holding a meeting for us at the side, and you were so present in your energy, I couldn't ignore your energy. I had to stop talking to the student and look over and notice what you're doing. He said, in that moment, I decided to put you on stage. And that's what changed my life right there, Josh, is because for years he had been saying he wanted more trainers, but he had never brought on anybody. He had a bunch of criteria that I didn't meet because I'd never trained a day in my life. But because I was present, I was giving, and I was being of service with no attachment, he made me his first protege. And next thing you know, I'm where I am today.
Yeah. So it's basically being around the right people and then serving. Like I was hearing this story on a podcast, this woman who was like executive producer for Oprah for 20 years, and she was just sort of an assistant there, and then Oprah's like, oh, I like you, you see me or something, and then elevated her. So it's the same kind of thing. So I get,
yeah. I was actually his assistant for a while. I've shined his shoes, I've pressed his shirts, I've made sure he was up in the morning, got his food, ready to go on stage. So, and because I wasn't doing it with what am I going to get out of it?
Yeah.
See, there's a different energy there. I was doing it because I was learning. I was being mentored by him. He didn't even know he was mentoring me, because as his assistant, I had to sit at the back of the room and watch every move of him on stage for 12 hours. That was my only focus. And so I learned his mannerisms, his voice tones, his movement, everything. And so I call it, when I tell people, it's called being a virtuoso. Most people start something new and they want to be at the top. I will do it, but I have to start here. No, jump in wherever you can, start learning. And a benefit for me, because I did logistics for 2.5 years, I can be on stage and I know what's going on in that room. Think of, his name, of course, just went out of my head, from Happy Days, Richie Cunningham. Why? That's a great producer.
Yeah, one sec. My dad's here. Yes, come in. Hello? Yes? Yeah, you wanted to leave now? All right. This is exciting. See, this is what happens when you live with your parents. They come in the middle of your interview. All right. We'll go. Well, you said we'll go around 12, or we're leaving now? All right. I'll wrap it up and we'll. Okay. Yeah. Give me a minute. So that's my father. And that's if you don't become successful in life and you're still in your parents' basement, that's what happens. You can't even interview people. We're gonna go visit. We're gonna go visit an aunt or a relative who's in the hospital. So what was the? Okay. Yeah, I didn't. I want to hear that. Just what was the end of this? What were we talking about?
Yeah. So Richie Cunningham.
Oh yes.
I'm trying. Yeah, the name of the actor that.
I don't even want to Google it. It's cheating. Oh, Ron Howard. Okay.
Ron Howard. Yeah, why is he such a great producer? Because while he was on the set as an actor, he was learning everything behind the scenes, because he knew he wasn't going to act all his life. And see, most people, they want to be the star, but they're not willing to put the work in behind the scenes of understanding. understanding why, say, comedy is good, how to make it great, what it takes to truly produce a good comedic performance. And so anybody who's famous and anybody who's at a master's level, what you see is the result of the thousands of hours of behind the scenes work that they've put in. And so I tell people, just jump in, start learning wherever you can, learn everything about the craft and the trade. So again, when I'm on stage, I know if I'm about to call for a handout, I know if my staff's not in place because I know what to watch for because I've learned all the logistics. And it allows me then to be a smoother flow on the stage instead of going, okay, take care of the handout. And then like, where's the handout? Why isn't and getting upset, right? I can sit there and I can be talking and then I notice, oh, they're not ready. So I can go, logistics staff, be ready with the next handout, please. And keep talking to my audience. And then I'll watch them all run and get in place. And then when they're ready, I'll say, and please take care of the handout. Much smoother transition. And the audience isn't even aware of what just happened. So be a virtuoso, jump in wherever you can. That's how to get started in whatever you want to master.
Yeah, it makes me think of just three quick thoughts. Speaking of Ron Howard, like another story I heard was there was this guy, Brian, whoever his producing partner is that's done everything with him, was just like this junior guy. He was in law school, but he interned for this agent or something and then had to deliver papers to Warren Beatty. And then he saw Ron Howard at the window and he's like, hey, Ron. He called him and he went over to his office and he's like, I want to be your assistant. I'm going to help you. And Ron's like, who are you? But anyways, just because of that, Ron's like, fine, you can go help me pitch Splash to people. And then he became his partner. So it's like, attaching yourself to someone and serving them. That was one quick thought. And then, the 1,000 hours. Yeah, I've heard a lot, like James Altucher's book, like Skip the Line. Like, okay, you got to spend 10,000 hours mastering things, but there's other ways to sort of, figure out how to get past that these days. And then the third thing, I'm wondering if I'm too old for that now. Because I signed up, they were looking for a new writer for Jon Stewart. And so I signed up for this website to see the job posting called Holly List. And I'm getting all these emails now about like assistant to Disney executive, assistant to Warner Brothers. And I'm like, if I was 20 years old, that's what I should have done. Just go to Hollywood and here, I'll shine your shoes for a few years and learn. So yeah, I don't know what, do you think anybody my age, like, is there still something I could do to sort of skip the line and become a Robert Riopel?
Just start.
Yeah.
Start. Quit buying into the stories that I'm too old or I don't know or whatever. Just start because you will be blown away, especially with today's technology, how quickly you can skip the line if you're present, if you're of service, and you've got that passion to follow what you want to do.
Yeah, I was going to say, because 18 years ago, I mean, I guess there was still the internet, but you were probably having to go around, do things in person and sell DVDs or whatever. But now who knows what you've been doing during the pandemic? Maybe you've been like just on Zoom doing massive, even Tony Robbins had these massive screens of, we're going to stand here. Yeah.
I've had to do a whole reinvent because I went from flying over 200,000 miles a year around the world to zero. And so actually yesterday we started pouring the final concrete of my training center built here on my property, where I now will have a 1,500 square foot training center with my new office set up for video, audio recording so I can do virtual trainings. Right now I'm doing a lot for my office here in the house, but once my new training center is ready and I move in about a week, then I will have I won't travel around the world nearly as much, but I'll always still do some live events because nothing will ever replace the energy of a live event.
Yeah. And I mean, that to me, that would be the fun of it. Like I thought of trying to go to these coaching events it seems like it would be like summer camp, just being around people and whatever. It reminds me actually that friend in Alberta, he was in Toronto, big commercial director, and he was like 46. He finally met a girl online who was 26 and she lived near Calgary and he moved there. So I emceed his wedding there. And then he decided he was going to move to Calgary, like he was going to get a farm, and everybody's like, oh my God, Phil, like you were the BMW fancy restaurant guy. Now you're living in the farm. And he wound up passing away of cancer like 4 years later. So I gave a speech at his funeral, but he was always saying like, hey, I don't need to be in Toronto. I could be in Alberta and sort of pitch for jobs and then travel to those and stuff. So, that seems like a very cool place, cool location to be. All right. Well, I could talk to you forever. So hopefully we can my dad's now looking in the door. Hopefully we can do another speech or another interview at some point and I can learn more about you. How would people, where would you direct people to reach you if they want to reach you now?
Yeah. One of the main places is just put my name into Facebook. You'll find my fan page. You can follow me, but also Josh, because you're so gracious to have me as a guest. One thing I love to do, my first book, Success Left a Clue, the one you see behind my shoulder, is your audience for taking their time to listen they can actually go to robertriopel.com and they can actually download the full digital version of the book as our gift to them for taking the time to listen to the podcast. But I will let you know, it does come with a caveat. And the caveat is this: it's not a book that you take, you read, and then put on the shelf as shelf help. It's not going to do you any good to just read it and put it away. I wrote it as a workbook because it outlines 6 steps to create the life of your dreams. And step number 3 is taking action. So I've got action steps all the way through. And it even says when you're starting a chapter, go, did you do the last action? If not, stop reading right now, go back and do that action before you continue reading. And so I'd love for your audience to do that and then follow me and hopefully it can assist in impacting their lives. All
right. I'll tell everyone to do that, and then they can send me questions, and then we'll do a Q&A or something sometime. Who knows?
Perfect.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Robert Riopel.
See, I love it. It took the French accent to get the name, and you're nailing it right on.
Excellent. So now I'll just book a flight to Alberta, and I'll come shine your shoes for a while and learn how you do what you do. And I can take care of your pig. I can be your pig's assistant.
Yeah, and she's so tough to take care of. She sleeps almost all day long. That's what adult pigs do.
So do I. All right. Perfect. I woke up just before this interview. All right. Thanks so much.
Appreciate it, Josh.
Bye.